portfolio have to be placed in the official gazette, saying what are the entities they're responsible for, what are their portfolio responsibles. None of this has been posted for the 4 new ministers. In fact, despite Mr. Granger's shuffling around of the ministers in the last 2 years like a deck of cards, there has been no official gazette appointing these persons to their new portfolios or their reshuffled portfolios. There must be a question under what authority are these people being paid and executing the authority as ministers. How can they do that? How are they getting their benefits? The official gazette is what is the legal instrument that says, here is a minister, this is what they're responsible for, and that is what is used to pay them their benefits and to also recognize them legally. When they sign something, when they agree to something, they sign a contract, they sign an agreement, they go abroad to represent our country. So how can this be happening that these ministers, for the last 2 years, at least in the last 2 years, official gazettes have not been issued for the reshuffled ministers, nor the new ministers of this year? Of course, all of this may be assigned to the government's sheer incompetence, and we all know that, and that would be a reasonable answer. Or is it that only? One has to ask. Still, let's go on the official gazette. Nissel has been given out land like there's no tomorrow. The latest one of October the 19th includes 2 parcels of land for Valerie Adams Yearwood and one for GWI head Van West Charles' daughter in Region 10. As you know, the minister's son, that is Valerie Adams Yearwood's son, already received land in Amelia's ward at the cost of other persons who had been legally given those lands prior to 2015. After the government change, the lands were taken away and reallocated to her son and others. Though this time, and if you don't believe me, let's go to the official gazette, October 19th, and I have it in front of me. Order number 78 of 2019. You have the purchaser, Kitindi Van West Charles of lot 301, Meadowbrook Gardens. Then you have, and that's for 0.5 acres. Then you have number 79, Valerie Adams Yearwood. It gives the address in Bel Air Park, and that she has acquired 1 acre. And where is this? This is in Richmond Hill, Mackenzie, lot 51. And then she's also given another land, or she purchases another land, same person, same address, same minister, for 1.098 of an acre, located also at another lot number in Richmond Hill. So, and then I have brought with me August, this is just an example, August 19th, official gazette, under orders made under the Public Corporations Act, which is what these orders I read to you just now have been issued in the name of Nissel. Orders from 51 to 67 of 2019. These orders start at 75, and the 2 I read you are 78, 79, and 80. So these are a whole set of other issuance of land by Nissel in Region 10, in places like Fair Rust, Plantation Fair Rust, or Nikadak, I think that's what the place is called, and so on. And so, Noitkadak, yeah, and Plantation Fair Rust. So, this is official gazette. If you don't believe me, go just type in on your laptop or your phone, Google, official gazette Guyana, go to publications, and you can have fun scrolling through that from today's date, because they don't post up to date, but as of October 19th, and go backwards and see the number of orders issued by Nissel for land and distributed, and who's getting it. I spoke 2 weeks ago about the recent order, another official gazette of October 5th. This is exercised by the minister responsible for mining, who is Mr. Trotman, issuing order number 71 of 2019 under the Mining Act, where as of 15th of September 2019, these persons listed below are being issued prospecting permit, medium-scale mining permits with a waiver. So all the procedures have been waived. And so, including that list of 1, 2, 3, about 12 companies or individuals, there we have it, Troy Brooms, who I believe is the husband or son of Minister Simona Brooms, and also Douglas Joseph, who was a former member of Parliament for the PNC, and I believe he's still a PNC member, and Dion Stall. So that at least 2 of these are openly PNC persons. So, my position on all of this, and oh, by the way, these licenses here are in the Cuyuni, Mid-Maz, and Region 1. So they also include Region 1 area. Some of the names listed here, including Mr. Brooms, have more than one concession, more than one license in the various areas. So I've said call this keeping it all in the family. And certainly it seems as if the PNC is keeping it all in the family. This blatant, indecent land grabbing by an illegal government is a last-ditch effort by the PNC to keep it, as I said, all in the family, as this may be their last time they get control over Guyana's natural resources. This is the behavior of a one-term government, grabbing all that it can before elections. It is estimated, my dear friends and viewers, that 30,000 acres of land have been distributed since the no-confidence motion was passed on December 21st, 2018. In 10 months alone, 30,000 acres have been distributed with no accountability as to the value of these lands, which were sold by the PNC-dominated illegal APNU AFC government. Worse yet, this illegal government, despite the CCJ ruling saying that they had restricted legal authority for the purpose of holding elections, have blatantly proceeded in this direction. Remember, this is the government who took PPP leaders, a former president and former ministers, to court for the purchase of house lots at the Sparran Dam government housing scheme, as they claimed it was below market value. At this point, no one knows what is being paid for the lands that NISL and the Guyana Lands and Survey Commission are doling out to their cronies and families. So we don't know if it's below market value. We don't know what the value is at all, nor do we have an idea of what is the money coming in to the coffers of our country. What, my friends, has happened to the National Housing Program since the APNU AFC came into office? Each region had housing schemes that were in different stages of development prior to 2015. The largest were along the coast in regions 3 and 4. Some were emerging as towns such as Diamond and Tushan, and even Parfait Harmony. In fact, instead of Mahdia being made a town, in 2016, Diamond under the law was and is still ready to be made into a town. It has a hospital, banks, police station, fire station, schools, primary, nursery, primary, secondary schools. This is one of the infrastructure that makes one eligible to be called a town. But Granger wouldn't want to concede that Diamond being ready to be made a town, he wouldn't want to concede that, because he'd have to recognize that this resulted from the program and investment of the PVPC government. So he ignored Diamond housing scheme, which has almost about 30,000 residents, and he is now presently celebrating his hinterland town concept with anniversary celebrations, with Mahdia less than 4,000 residents, Mabaruma about 5,000, Letham about 4,000, and Partika about 8,000 residents. I'm not begrudging any of these becoming towns, except it's the choice that Mr. Granger made, and the reason, the myopia behind the selection. When he went to Linden recently for the 62nd anniversary of the PNC, he promised 500 house lots will be distributed as his 2020 election promise. But remember, he had made similar promises in 2015 to Lindeners. Yet the housing sector in Linden has hardly moved. But party cronies have been gobbling up land in Linden and its surroundings, as I gave you an example, earlier, including Lowenfield, the CEO of GCOM, whilst the National Housing Program in Linden and across Guyana has fallen from being a major contributor and stimulant to the economy and job creation to one that is barely crawling on its belly since May 2015. From the approval of over 4,000 house lot applications on average a year under the PPC government to approximately 400 on average in the last few years is nothing to celebrate. The government decided to focus, and I'm being very generous with the 400 that have been issued, because in some years it's only 300. The government decided to focus instead on building townhouses, what sometimes are called row houses, or the fancy name duplexes, for a higher price than the single turnkey houses the PPP was building for the very poor, and which, as you remember, the same minister condemned these buildings as substandard. The fact that the minister's husband got contracts to build some of these duplexes illustrates when a government is willing to sacrifice policies and principles for self-gain through corruption. Some business houses are being forced to order and purchase large supplies of APNU election paraphernalia, t-shirts and satchels. I call this extortion. What do you call it? Approximately $30 million is being spent of taxpayers' money on the PNC APNU AFC campaign, including the purchase of campaign paraphernalia, using the state machinery and guess whose money? Our money, the taxpayers' money. I will return to this issue over the next few weeks in greater detail. Of course, Mr. Clean, as portrayed by his PNC party and government, oversees all of this and does nothing to stop the pillage of our country's resources. One corruption after another has been exposed since August 2015, yet nothing happens. This was the presidential candidate in 2015 election campaign who promised they would get rid of corruption, clean the swamps, to use President Trump's term. Unfortunately, he was only referring to pre-2015 PVP leaders, not to what his position would be in relation to, under his watch, by his PNC APNU AFC leaders and supporters. And despite all the election campaign against the former PVP leaders, not one case in court has been able to stand up. In August 2016, I reported to you that I had found 16 cases of scandals, scams, and corruption under this government. A year later, in 2017, it had doubled to 52. I reported again in September 2018 that it had climbed to 67. And in 29, I report to you that there are even more, going as high as 100. The pattern of what I call keeping it all in the family is so blatant, while the working people of this country punish under climbing cost of living, heavy taxation, lack of jobs, and increased poverty. The greatest travesty that has been wreaked on the Guyanese people in the last few years has been the sale of our patrimony in the oil and gas sector for what we in Guyana call small change. Yet Mr. Clean continues to say that I have been a good president when he was interviewed by the editor-in-chief of the Guyana Chronicle, Nigel Williams. The 2015 campaign of the APNU AFC has been unmasked. It's been based on lies and broken promises. People prior to 2015 were fed lies about the PPC government, supported by certain hostile media houses. The campaign against the PVP was constant, daily, and robust from 2009 to 2015. For example, people were told repeatedly about the connection between Roger Khan and the Troubles, as Granger called it, and still does. Last week, Commodore Best, former Chief of Staff appointed under the PVPC government, at a PNC press conference held at Congress Place, admitted that they do not have any evidence to bring against persons, including Roger Khan, involved in the Troubles. So the PNC lied to the electorate. If you don't have evidence now, as people won't come forward to provide facts and evidence, did the PNC base their assertion that the PPPC was responsible for the deaths of 400 black men? On what basis? Anecdote? Rumor? And this was a constant battle from 2006 right through up to today. And yet they have no evidence. They cannot get evidence. But therefore I can't repeat, on what basis did they feed the Guyanese people this diet of lies? And therefore it is now being exposed that it by no less than common or best, on a PNC platform, that they have no evidence. In fact, the PNC's own submission to United Nations in 2013 of 400 black men who were killed by the PPC government was flawed, as it included people who were alive, policemen who were gunned down in shootouts with the bandits themselves, people who were killed by the bandits, such as Sash Shaw and his family, and the victims of Lusignan and Bartica massacres and Lindo Creek, and the victims, people who died of natural causes, heart attack, etc., people who died in traffic accidents, and not all were black, and not all were men. But this was part of the onslaught on the PPP to bring down the government. Last week, Best's statement at the PNC Congress press conference showed that all of this was based on lies, and like a deck of cards, collapsed in the face of evidence. Today, some 64% of the Guyanese surveyed gave the government a negative rating, and almost everyone was dissatisfied with the government's handling of crime, the contracts with the oil company, and the holding of timely elections relating to the no-confidence vote. 70% were unhappy with the handling of the economy. 84% said the country was going in the wrong direction. Some 2/3 felt the election should have been held soon after the CCJ's ruling on the issue of June 18th, and almost everyone was displeased with GCOM for its lack of readiness to hold elections as required by the Constitution. Well, what's happening at GCOM, my dear friends? As of today, there are 129 days, or 4 months and 6 days if my calculations are right, before March 2nd, election day. Last week, we were pleased to learn that Jean-Pierre Kingsley, who served as Canada's election officer for 17 years, has accepted the invitation of GCOM chair, retired Claudette Singh, to provide technical electoral aid to her, the chair. I told you last week that there would be a European Union exploratory electoral assessment mission to Guyana this week to meet with GCOM, etc., and to assess the needs of GCOM to ensure tamper-proof and free and fair elections. We in the parliamentary opposition have met with the team, and we welcome their presence and also call on them to send an EU observer mission long before the elections to observe the election machinery of GCOM and to stay after the election results are announced until the new government is installed. Remember, the UNDP offered last year the support of an international IT specialist. And remember, it was GCOM who asked the UNDP to come in and give this technical support. The UN mission came in May last year and did a report which said, and this is where the crux of the matter was, advised the GCOM not to have a house-to-house registration exercise prior to elections, as this would be seen to be politically motivated. It also continued in its offer for an IT specialist. At that point, Mr. Patterson, the then chairman, refused to meet with UNDP for months and months. And as of today, the offer of an IT specialist is still pending by the UNDP. GCOM, as far as I know, has made no decision. Here we have the offer of a specialist at no cost to us, coming in to assist in the critical area of the IT unit, which is the database for the National Registrar of Registrants of Guyana, that is everyone 14 and up, as well as a database of voters. We understand that the Commonwealth will be providing technical support to GCOM also, and we welcome this wholeheartedly. Of course, the elephant in the room, CARICOM, whose silence continues unapologetically to the Guyanese people. This is nothing but shame, absolute shame, and a travesty being done on a member country of the CARICOM. Voters have lost confidence in GCOM over the last 10 months, and the presence and assistance of these experts will bring some assurance to the Guyanese people. According to the GCOM PRO today, 13,310 transactions have been done so far in the GCOM claims and objection period, which started on October 1st. There are 2 weeks remaining. This includes new registrations, transfers, changes of address, and retaking of photographs, collecting of ID cards, among others. So we hope that people are paying attention to this. We know that in the interior areas, large sections of the interior are not completed, as these require mobile teams. And I know Region 7 a bit in that I have certain political responsibilities there, that 80% of the work done by GCOM in Region 7 is done through mobile teams going out to Middle Mazaruni, Lower Mazaruni, Cayuni, the Bartica area in front of the Bartica, the riverine areas closest to Bartica, as well as Cayuni proper and the Upper Mazaruni. Many of these teams are still out. Some mobile teams are out as long as 10 and 12 days. So there are a number of regions in the interior that the mobile work has not completed. So this 13,000 may not be a correct reflection in the sense that those teams have not completed their work and come back in. However, the majority of transactions thus far appear to be transfers, people trying to make sure they're on the list where they live. Well, the confusion on the house-to-house registration, what GCOM will do with the names of persons they collected, some of whom are on the PLE already, and the national ID cards, continues. We spoke last week of the government-nominated commissioners at the GCOM attempting to remove some 20,000 persons from the voters list who had failed to uplift their ID cards. This obviously will disenfranchise them from voting. We understand no decision has yet been taken by GCOM in response to this. And obviously this creates confusion and fear among the population. We find this odd that the chairman would not rule on this matter clearly and unequivocally as she did in 1998 with the GCOM case, which I'll come and explain to you. With regards to the names from the aborted house-to-house exercise, one half of the GCOM has denied that any decision was made by the Commission to publish the list of registrants captured during the recent house-to-house exercise, throwing further uncertainty into the whole thing. The People's Progressive Party nominated Commissioners Sayes Conrad, Robeson Ben, and Bibi Shadiq yesterday evening, Wednesday evening, said that such a decision was never taken by the full Commission. The Commissioner said in a statement, "We read reports in the press," and I'm quoting, attributed to Commissioner Charles Corbyn that the Elections Commission will proceed to publish the entire list of persons registered during the house-to-house exercise from Thursday, the 21st October 2019. These remarks were made to the press immediately after the statutory meeting of the 22nd of October 2019, and the impression was conveyed that the said disclosure was a decision of GCOM. We were present from the beginning to the end of that GCOM meeting, and we wish to emphasize most vehemently that no such decision was taken. According to the commissioners, they have since informed the chairperson of GCOM of this misinformation and have requested her intervention. Moreover, they made their objections to the move clear. It was announced on Tuesday that GCOM had completed the encoding process for data gathering from the recent house-to-house exercise, and that fingerprints would be sent overseas to be cross-matched. However, Commissioner Corbyn told the media that the data gleaned from the encoding process will be put up for scrutiny from today. At that time, Mr. Gunraj noted that while the proposal came up for discussion, there had been decisions at the Commission level about this approach. Mr. Gunraj is quoted as saying, we discussed the house-to-house data. Specifically, we got back a report from the fingerprint cross-matching on a part of that data. What we're looking at now is what to do with it. A proposal is to publicize it for public scrutiny, but then to what end? My question at the meeting was, when do you post it for public scrutiny? How does one deal with it? And so Mr. Gunraj continued to say that up to the present time, we have not received any proposal as to how those issues will be treated. Remember, the house-to-house registration, that list or the encoded names are not part of the PLE that is under scrutiny for the claims and objection period. There are important statutory provisions and processes imposed by law to safeguard the integrity of the official list of electors, and this is vital to the delivery of credible elections. Instead of working out the details of these important processes and making them public, the government commissions continue to pursue mechanisms to contaminate, pervert, and illegitimize the electoral machinery. To date, GCOM has not started an education program for persons. In the interior, many of the PLEs are still not posted up, although the orders signed by the chairperson said all lists had to be posted up by the end of September. Approximately 20,000 people have not uplifted their ID cards, some dating back to house-to-house registration in 2018. This is a claim of the government-appointed commissioners. We are not sure if this figure is right, those of us who are outside of GCOM. But we must remember that back in August, Chief Justice Roxanne George ruled that persons cannot be removed from the voters list unless they're dead or otherwise disqualified to vote under Article 159, 2, 3, and 4, something which the PVP commissioners reminded the GCOM. What does 159 talk about? You must be 18, you must be a citizen of Guyana, and of course alive. And those are persons who may be incarcerated and sentenced to crimes. They would not be allowed to vote. Or persons are mentally ill and certified as insane. However, while the government commissions are attempting to take persons off the list for not having ID cards, in Guyana there's no requirement that a person must have an ID card to vote. In 2015, with over 35,000 identification cards still sitting at GCOM that belong to persons registered over the many continuous registration periods since 2008, the then chairman, Dr. Serge Valley, had said that persons do not need ID cards to vote at the May the 11th, 2015 election. Remember, when you go to vote, there is a folio. Your name is on the list, the Gail Teixeira, it has my address, and it has my photograph. So even if I don't have my ID card, and my passport, I forgot it or I've lost it, I can still go to vote because the photograph is there. The presiding officer looks at the photograph. Does it look like me, the person standing in front of her, or not? And I am allowed to vote. However, I would not risk it. I would always make sure, ID card or passport, one of the two. I don't trust GCOM presiding officers. As a matter of fact, it is the current GCOM chair, Justice Claudette Singh, who in 1998 in the High Court ruled that a requirement for voters to have a voter ID card in 1997 was ultra-virus, Articles 59 and 159 of the Constitution, despite the fact that the law bringing in the voter ID card was unanimously approved in the Parliament. And so we are very clear that these efforts by the government and the government-appointed commissioners are indicating a number of things to us. And the PEP statement in response to the announcement by Mr. Corbyn that they were going in the direction of removing ID cards, persons who did not collect their ID cards, as well as the use of the house-to-house. The PEP statement said the following: from the foregoing, it is clear that the APNU AFC is preparing the ground either to set aside the entire elections as illegal and unconstitutional when they lose, or by rigging the elections by disenfranchising tens of thousands of Guyanese electors. However, the PEP assures every Guyanese that we will continue to expose these mischievous endeavors and struggle to correct them as we continue the battle for democratic, free and fair elections on the 2nd of March 2020. It is therefore important, my dear friends, that if you have an ID, you are on the voters list, and you have an ID card, and you haven't picked it up from GCOM Center, it's important that you make great efforts to try and collect your card. You have to go in person because they have to see your face. And so I know that on this list of 20,000 they're talking about, that some people may have died. There may also, what is not clear, is this 20,000 voters, that is 18 and above, or is this 20,000 who are registered, which could include 14-year-olds and up who were registered several years ago and did not collect their cards. So there's uncertainty on that issue. I gave an example last week of the difficulties people encounter, and I used an extreme case of Region 7 as an example of the logistical difficulties people experience, especially in the interior. And I gave Region 7, for example. Region 7 has two offices, GCOM offices, one at Bartica and one at Camarang. So these two offices, Camarang covers Cayuni, Upper Mass. Bartica office covers Middle Mass, Lower Mass, Lower Cayuni, and the riverine areas in front of it, and including some of the riverine areas that belong to Region 10 on the Essequibo. So over the different continuous registration periods, people have got registered, they are issued cards, and in some cases are not able to collect them. And let me give you an example. All of these, most of the registration, I said earlier in Region 7, is done by mobiles. So how does someone who was registered in Cayuni by a GCOM mobile get to Camarang to pick up their card? Now, luckily in Region 7, the numbers are not too high as against parts of Georgetown or other places. But some people move to Georgetown or other parts of the country. How can they afford to go back and collect their cards? Why doesn't GCOM instruct the ROs that when they go on mobiles in the claims and objection period, they walk with the national ID cards of those persons registered in those areas who didn't pick up their cards? They know the information on each card holder in each RO office, so it's not difficult to track. And therefore, it is important that we ask you to be on the safe side. Have you got a new ID card that's sitting at GCOM? You are registered, your name is on the voters list, but you didn't collect it. Or you went and took a re-photograph because the photograph was not good, or there was some correction on the ID card that you had to have done. Please make efforts as much as possible to go in and collect the ID cards from the stations. Now, I know for those of you who moved, it's difficult because you have to go back to the stations where your centers, where you were originally registered. However, for persons who wish to do transfers, you do not have to go back to where you originally were registered. So some centers, some mischievous GCOM staff in some centers are misinforming people and telling them when they go to do transfers that they have to go back to the place where they were originally registered. That is totally incorrect. If you're now living in Bartica and you were in Berbice, you were registered in Berbice, all you have to do is to go to the GCOM office in Bartica and say that I wish to transfer. I'm now living at X place in the area that covered by Bartica. And they take all the details and take down all the notes, and therefore the transfer is done. You do not have to go back to Berbice or Essequibo or Camarang or Lethem to do a transfer. You are living there. When you do the transfer form, they will come to your house within 2-3 days to do a verification that you are there where you say you are going to be. So don't get let the GCOM staff fool you and get you confused. When you're doing a transfer, you do not need to go back to where your name was originally on the list. We also say that please note that the GCOM centers are open on the weekends and on holidays so that you would be able to go and do transactions during the day in the holidays. GCOM centers are holding hearings for objections, which by law cannot take place until the claims period is finished on November 4th. These objections can only be heard from November 5th to 11th. Yet the returning registration officers continue to disobey the law in spite of objections of the Chief Scrutiny of the People's Progressive Party, who has put this in writing to the Chief Elections Officer, Mr. Lowenfield. Objections must take place after the claims period has finished. So you can put in your objection, a relative has died or whatever, but you cannot have the hearing. Each objection has a hearing where you have to come in and bring in the death certificate, etc. Let us be vigilant and ensure that we have free and fair elections. Let us ensure that. We're going to open the lines today so that we can have a discussion on some of these issues. And I hope that our people are being very vigilant. GCOM list is on the GCOM website, the preliminary list of electors. You can input your ID card number, and it will show you where you are on the list, which division you're on the list. It may not say the place where you're going to go to vote. That's not ready yet. But it will tell you, and you make a note of it, that you're in so-and-so division, subdivision, so that it'll be easier when elections come for you to find where your station is based on the subdivision, division and subdivision your name is on. It'll give you your name, the number on the list. So when you go to certain centers, and there are these information officers that tell you that your name is not on the list, you can say, no, I found it on the website. I'm at this station, I'm here. So don't let anybody bully you around. Let me answer the phone. Hello, good afternoon. I just missed that call, so I was trying to explain to you about the whole thing at GCOM. Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to Matters of Public Importance.
Good afternoon, Mr. Shearer.
Hi, good afternoon.
I'm really happy that you are putting out each of these details, and I like to tell people that we have to be careful. We have to listen properly. And like you just said, it is the GCOM officers there. They are trying to do everything. They probably think you're stupid, and to disarray or get you confused. When they came to register me, I call on the neighbors. And I asked them, I tell them you have to go over there. You know what they told me? The neighbors said they are not ready yet. And I made sure I called the neighbor and called them back, and they come. But said they were doing their own things. So we get it work out. I went to Freedom House, and we got the girl, and we walk around, and we got it straightened out. And this is what they did the last election. Most of the people, like the middle-aged people, they don't know to read, who didn't go to school. You know what they did? They tell them, this picture is not you. And I tell the girl, I said, can you stand up with your ID and say, look, this is me and this is my original ID card? I did that. I had to have the presiding officer come out. I waited there till 6:30. And I said, this is me, my original ID card. Even if it doesn't look like me, it is me. And she said, go in and cast your vote. So yes, we have to stand up in what we believe in. Don't lose faith, people. We are suffering in this country. the PPP government has worked really hard, and we had a good life. We were able to educate our children. I can cry because for our daughters and our sons, who the generation to come, what would happen to them? We were able to educate our children. I was educate all my children, and we had a good life. And they took it from us. The children, my son had to go work mason work when he doesn't get work for $3,000 a day, and he's just spray paint car. So they punish us in this country, and we the people have to be strong. Just make sure you check your name, you know your neighbor, do your nephew, call on your auntie, call on some family, everybody. I just come from the other street to the salon, and I was asking everybody, you check your name, do you want us to come to your house? Please do. If you're not an officer or you want appointed, just ask them, go check your name.
Yeah.
And everything will be okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, dear. Yeah, it's very important. This period of claims objection is critical. If you don't take it seriously now, you may find yourself in a situation, March the 2nd, you want to go to vote, and you didn't bother to make a claim, your name was not on the list, or that you didn't do a transfer, and you can't afford to go back to where your name was originally. So it's important that we only have, 14 more days left for the claims objection period. So people, please pay attention. As I told you now, we have GCOM, the website. You can punch in your ID card number if you have one, or you punch in your name, your full name, your proper name that you registered with, to see if your name is on the list. If your name is not on the list, you can come to Freedom House, ask for us to do a help you check again. And if you don't succeed, then you go to make a claim. Do not get confused with the house-to-house registration period, because some people are saying, well, I registered in the house-to-house registration period, so I don't have to register now. This is where, when I was talking about the confusion, which GCOM is allowing to happen, because they will not make a proper decision on the names on the house-to-house registration. Of the 370,000 people that registered in that period, only a small percentage of that are new registrants. The majority of those are persons who are registered before. Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for calling.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. Yes.
I am complaining about this register. Where they come by me, I told them that my family them at work, let it come the next Sunday. They never come until now.
And that is how long ago? 2 weeks ago?
No, that when they registering before.
You mean the house-to-house registration?
Yes. And they never come.
Right. Well, I mean the house-to-house registration was aborted.
Yes, I know that.
So if there are people that you know that need to be registered, you got to get them to GCOM Center. The GCOM Center where you live. The house-to-house registration is over.
Okay.
Right? So if they weren't registered when the house-to-house registration was on and they're not on the voters list, they need to go to the GCOM Center nearest to them, walk with their birth certificate or their marriage certificate, depending what they're doing, and to go and to the center. When the center registers them, they will come back and do verification at the house to show that you are so-and-so living at this address as you claimed when you went to the registration center.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different in this period.
I registered years ago, so I don't know if I have to go back.
No, you have to check your name on the voters list.
Okay.
If you have anyone to help you, to go on the GCOM website, they have the preliminary list of electors put up there, and then you have to go into it to search for your name. Otherwise, you can call Freedom House and ask if you can get assistance, because they have access to the same website that everyone can access to help you. But you need your ID card number. You have an ID card.
Yeah. I always vote, but I want to know these things that going on.
Yeah. No, take nothing for granted. So if you like, call Freedom House. There is a hotline number, but I've forgotten to walk with it. So you can call the switchboard at Freedom House, 227-2095.
I want to know if I'm Kwame Mackay and get a number.
Yeah, but you can take the number. I'm giving you it now. But yeah, the number for the hotline
Okay.
to call Freedom House. It's in the Mirror newspaper as well. I made a mistake in not
Yeah,
walking
you
with
want
it.
to give me the number now?
So the switchboard number, 227
227
2095 Freedom House.
2095.
Right. Call there and ask if they can help you. They will probably put you onto another number to call that, which will have access to the GCOM database, and they will see, is your name on the list, and have your ID card near you when you call, so you can give them the ID card and they'll search for you.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay,
Have
bye-bye.
a nice day.
You too, bye-bye. Yeah, people, it's important. Remember, a person who is not registered needs to make a claim. They have to be 18 years and over as of December 31st, 2019. So that means persons who are born in 2001 would be eligible once their birthday is before December 31st this year. So it's not dealing with 14-year-old, persons 14 to 18. It's dealing with those who are eligible to vote. Secondly, in the case of people who are not on the list, they need to go to the center and make a claim. Now, it's important to check to make sure you are on the list. Some people will tell you, I think I voted last time here, or I voted here last time. Sometimes people can't remember, sometimes people have moved. And so it's important to check the list itself, make sure you have the correct spelling of your name. Because in my own experience, sometimes people will tell you they spell their name one way, and when they register, they spelled it another way based on their birth certificate. So you need to look at the birth certificate name, which you may have registered with, or for women who are married. Are there women on the list now who may have got married and therefore want to put their name in their husband's name, their surname in their husband's name? They need to go to the GCOM center with their marriage certificate and their birth certificate to show, and so if they were on the list, they have to do a change of name. That is, their surname is changed to their husband's name. If they're divorced or their husband has died and they wish to go back to their maiden name, the name they had before they were married, they need to go in with a death certificate and or the divorce annulment from the court showing they're divorced, and they go back to the name. So these are things you have to do at the center itself. They won't come to your house to do those procedures. So that's the difference between house to house. They came to your house to register you. In the claims objection, they're only dealing with voters and persons who have to be registered. Now, so if your name's on the list, the spelling is correct, the address is correct, the ID numbers are, you're fine. Just make a note somewhere where you won't forget that this is the division I'm in and the subdivision I'm in, and that will show you from the list. For those who have changed their name, for example, people may have another name, an alias, which is legal. They need to go and bring in the document to show that their name has been legally, they have two names, known as. You also have persons, as I said, especially women, who have been divorced, married, or widowed, who want to change their names. You have persons who were adopted, who need to, and who are now reaching the age to vote, for example. They need to bring in the document showing their birth certificate, which is showing that they were, birth registration that they were adopted, or the court document that they were adopted, if they know that. So that persons will say they lost their ID card in the meantime and they want to get a new one. You need to get a commission of oaths to pick up the form from GCOM and the center nearest to you, and also then take it to a commissioner of oaths who has to assign it, saying that you're telling the truth, that you lost it, your bag was stolen, etc., so that you can get a new ID card. And so these are some of the things we need to keep in mind. Don't get confused. Don't get confused. If you're not certain, please feel free to call Freedom House to ask for advice, whether Freedom House in Georgetown or the Freedom House offices in Berbice, in West Coast Berbice, Anna Regina, and so forth, that will be able to help you across the country, including Region 9, Lethem. We have an office there. So we have several Freedom House offices around the country that you can call. Region 3 has a Freedom House office as well. So there are numbers there, and I do apologize for not walking with the number for Freedom House's central line that you can call to seek for advice or to report it. If GCOM people push you around when you go to this center and tell you, like they told someone yesterday from an area, that they have to go back to Berbice to make a transfer, call immediately, look for where there may be PPP supporters or the scrutineer there. At each center there's a PPP scrutineer and an ACS, which is Assistant Chief Scrutineer. If you're being pushed around, you have a right to afterwards go to the ACS or the scrutineer, PPP scrutineer, says, this is not fair, please help me out. And they're supposed to make representation. And or if the RO still gives trouble, then they call us centrally, where then the chief scrutineer for the party will call Lowenfield. So don't be intimidated by the process. And as a lady called in earlier, stand up. If you're not sure, ask questions. I'm not saying to you to be rude and brook a place and stuff like that. I'm saying don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't let people bully you and push you around just because you don't have the information. Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Matters of Public Importance.
Hello, come again?
Hi, good afternoon.
Hello?
Yes.
Come again?
Yes, I'm speaking to you. Hi.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You know, why there party groups? When you don't go along with the LRR and make check wrong with the CDs?
Well, I don't know. I know that all of us are doing that in different areas we're assigned to.
Okay.
Are you seeing that there's nobody in your area at all?
No, maybe. I don't know how long. At least I'm come by me.
Are you?
Well, you should go around, go around and make checks. See that everybody, the guy don't trust these people, trust these people,
Well, there are two things. Our party people are going around, as far as I know. They haven't completed all the areas because volunteers have to do this voluntarily when they're not working or when they have time on the weekends.
Okay.
But they are doing it, and but also you can check your name on the list too by going on the GCOM list and checking. But yeah, I agree with you, and if you could have told me afterwards which area you haven't seen anybody, I'd be interested. But as far as I know, the party is checking.
I have a freedom to check it out.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye. As I said, claim subjection ends on November 4th. It's not far away from now. And then the 5th to the 11th is the objections. And as I said, the two things we don't know about. What GCOM is going to do, what are they going to do with these names they collect in the house-to-house registration? And what is going to be the decision of GCOM to do with this PNC proposal, both of PNC proposals, to take the 20,000 people who have not collected their ID cards off the list. And so these are major concerns, and therefore, as I'm saying to you, friends, supporters, all Guyanese, whether you vote APNU or AFC, or PPP, or any party, it is your civic responsibility to check to make sure your name is on the list. If you've moved in the last, between 2015 and now, where you last voted in 2015, then you need to do a transfer. People say to me, I'm going to go back to where I belong and vote. I want to vote in Georgetown. Georgetown always got trouble. People say that, but sometimes it's a day off, it's not a working day, and sometimes people don't bother to go back. I think it's safest to transfer to where you're living. It won't cost you money, and therefore it'd be easier. And for those who are students who are studying at the University of Guyana or the nursing school or the Cyril Potter, who happen to be in Georgetown, who happen to be studying in the city and have been here for a year or two, they may wish to consider that. Some others will, no, we'll go back home and vote. But in some cases, people suddenly run out of money, they can't do it. And therefore it's important that you explore all possibilities. After November 4th, you can't do a transfer, you can't make a claim to put your name on the list. So that's the drop dead date as far as we know. We know of no other changes. And therefore you can't say, I'll go later. Later when? After November 4th, you cannot make a claim. I repeat, you cannot add your name to the voters list. nor can you do a transfer. If your photograph had to be retaken, you have to go in and do it in this period. And if you need to collect your ID card, which you're registered a year or two ago, or 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, please go and collect your card. And you could then do a retake of your photograph, because the photo may be old, make you look much younger than you are now. And so, or you may want to keep it because you like the fact that you look younger than you are now. So please keep these things in mind. We're heading towards elections. We're heading towards a government that is illegal, that is doing all sorts of things to stay in government as long as possible, and to try to, in some way or another, challenge the elections, if not delay it. And so we have to make sure we're doing everything according to the book, everything according to the law, and that our citizens, all citizens of Guyana, are paying responsibility to this freedom that we have, that we must respect this freedom that we have and not treat it lightly, because whatever happens on March the 2nd, we will be having a government, a new government in that period. Well, some of you have had your say, and so I repeat again, let us be vigilant, take nothing for granted. Let's ensure that we have free and fair elections. Well, this weekend is Diwali on Sunday, and the Festival of Lights is really a lovely religious festival that all Guyanese, whether Hindu or not, just love. I believe it's the lights, the lift it gives your soul and your spirit, and the whole surroundings around you. We wish our Hindu brothers and sisters that Diwali this year shines its light on all of Guyana, for all of Guyana over the next year. So we, the people, can see the light and ensure and enter a phase of development and hope for the future. And I'm sure that our Hindu brothers and sisters wish that for all of us, all Guyanese. And so let's enjoy the Festival of Lights. And I know for myself, I love to buy, I'm not a Hindu, but I love to have some of the diyas at my front door, on the landing, and near the gate post, on the gate post. For me, it gives me a sense of I'm participating in a religious ceremony that has great significance, and I believe in light, in hope. I believe in the future. And so I'm sure all of us will be doing something on Sunday, and of course enjoying Monday, the holiday. So again, all the best wishes to our Hindu brothers and sisters on this wonderful Diwali 2019, and that I wish all of you a very blessed week until we meet again right here on Matters of Public Importance, right here on next Thursday, 12:30 to 1:30. Thank you very much.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of CNS Channel 6.
With most Humana Medicare Advantage plans. You get all this coverage for as low as a $0 monthly plan premium in many areas. And your doctor and hospital may already be a part of Humana's large network. If you want the facts, call right now for the free decision guide from Humana. There is no obligation, so call the number on your screen right now to see if your doctor is in our network, to find out if you could save on your prescriptions, and to get our free decision guide. Licensed Humana sales agents are standing by, so call now.
Here we go. Let's see what happens in the tiebreaker. Whoops. Wait a minute. Don't nobody do nothing. It's the third one. Yeah, it says tie on it, and there's only one in it, so this is it.
Who was that masked man?
Gunga Dingy.
Oh.